Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard along with your host Bill Stierle. And Bill, I'm really excited to jump right in today. You know, we had such a great conversation last time about the Four Horsemen, and then that led us into, and I think we ended with how to escalate conflict. We actually discussed how to make things worse, it seems, right? How to escalate the words and the path to escalating conflict, and left everybody hanging there. So I'm excited to now bring it all back and say, okay, now that we whipped up trouble, how are we going to learn how to de-escalate?
Yeah, Tom, thanks again for doing this. It's been a delight to be able to contribute to people to both talk about how to escalate conflict and de-escalate conflict with the language that we use. And then you can use some very specifics in order to do that. And with that said, we have some problems in media and we have some problems in government because the escalation and de-escalation makes good ratings. There's a pull or a draw or a feel to get eyeballs in the direction of the conflict. So if you need to keep conflict and keep conflict tight and keep attention to conflict, gosh, you know, Donald Trump is, as a reality star, he's really good at getting eyeballs moving in the direction. The only challenge with that, if you're always kind of hitting the bar, and, taking a energetic dope of anything from cocaine to heroin to any other drug that can get you hooked on that hit of conflict. Conflict works very much the same as gambling does, and works very much the same as many, drugs that cause that stimulant to take place. And there's nothing better for media and capitalism is to kind of get hooked on purchasing a product or service and paying attention to a product or service by grabbing a hold of, a stimulant and then throwing at people and then them taking it, like a lure, with a fish. You got to pull the lure at the right speed and you got to jerk it and you've got to jiggle it and you've got to let it sink to the bottom and bring it to the top and reel it in faster, reel it in slower. It's like, yikes. So there is a problem with media is that as soon as truth is being spoken, dopamine gets dropped inside the human's body and they start clicking away because they have to now deal with a complex issue. And that would cause the feeling of frustration to show up, irritation, because it's not easy to get done and it's not a soundbite. Soundbite is like a jiggling lure. So the purchasing of truth has to do with this, constant stimulant that's showing up in the environment. And whenever I could take a shot, I'm going to take it. And that's currently what's happening. And regrettably, it makes it very hard to deal with because you've got to come up with your own very interesting soundbite to counteract the other person's soundbite.
Well, and doesn't that do what we talked a little bit about last time? That escalates the conflict?
Yeah, and it's going to escalate the conflict and escalate the ratings. And oh my gosh, it's like CNN's going to become the most popular network ever. Because their ratings were all very low because they kept reporting the truth. They kept staying on facts and information in an accurate way as a news agency. They had that focus. It's like CNN loser things because look at their ratings. Their ratings are low because their facts are high. Their truth is high. And it's
And
boring a
it,
little bit.
it's boring, but it's also counterintuitive because I'm sure everyone at CNN and whoever is the head of the news division or, establishes their policy thinks that actually coming back at the president, the administration, or anybody they interview who they think is moving farther away from the truth is to, hey, throw the facts at them, put them in their face, hold a mirror up to them.
Yeah, that's right.
But it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it really doesn't. It really doesn't work. It just becomes, here's a boring person that I don't trust, and here's an exciting person that has got me kind of addicted to following him. And I'm going with the exciting person, even though, he's leading me off the cliff, and he's leading the brand damage to America. And it's kind of weird. It's like there's when you do this often enough, and if you keep it light enough and it's not all the time, this is why Trump has, and the Trump name has been licensed on different properties because, oh yeah, I remember that Trump guy. He was on Apprentice, and you know, you only had to see him every once in a while. You didn't have to see him that often. But, in a government position where government is really designed for stability and infrastructure and, kind of like keeping an eye on the bad guys and kind of, provide protection and stuff like that. Now you've got somebody from a reality show that is going to, hype it every 30 minutes with a new slogan. So they come back after the commercial. I mean, it's a little problematic because the person has to rely on guilt and criticism and punishment and blame and shame. And when he does that, then all of a sudden it's like it's those other people will have this because the rewards, there's going to be a lot of winning. You're going to get tired of winning, and evaluate what I've done, and this is the most it's ever been. But we're not going to really check that. I'm the most transparent president.
Oh, in history.
In history. It's a hook. It's a lure that people that are already on the hook take again. He is the most transparent. He did give them that. Yeah, but he's not going to give them that documents. But that doesn't really count as transparency, does it? And then their mind gets stuck between, the punishment and the reward, between the criticism and the expectations, between the guilt and the evaluation. Their brain gets stuck between those different language narratives, and he just plays the song, as a part of it. So it's really
Wow.
disheartening.
It
Yeah.
really seems that this particular president, who cares more about ratings, his own
That's right.
popularity than pretty much anything else,
Yeah,
is ideally suited to take advantage of the media
that's right.
and and continue to perpetuate whatever narrative that he wants. He and it seems that other than, his own cheerleading squad on Fox News, it would seem the other news agencies are really unable to help themselves but play into a dialogue that they want to help. They think it's going to help shine some light on how far away from truth he is.
Yeah.
but it isn't working.
No, it doesn't really particularly work because it doesn't matter how much you think you're in the right and how much you project to the person in the wrong. You don't really realize that you're just on the other end of the gerbil wheel. You don't realize that I'm fighting for what's right. Yeah, but that's not what's needed. What's needed is what's compassionate. What's needed is what's grounded. What's needed is what's a heart-based language, not a head-based language. I don't need a devil on one ear and an angel on the other. That's not what's needed. I needed something that's more solid to get us back to. This is why the Nancy Pelosi going, gosh, listen, I really want an intervention. I really pray for. When she did that, it's like he got forced into the uh-oh, she's crazy. It's like, not, she's not crazy. She just had a moment of compassion. I pray for America. I pray for the president. There's something wrong over there.
And when she talked about, his family or his cabinet, somebody needs to have an an intervention, you think that also was a compassionate kind of an expression?
Yeah, she was close to it. That it's regrettably, though, it doesn't land as much as is that the president really had some strong feelings about what I said about him, and um, he didn't really like that kind of truth around cover up, because that's what resisting a subpoena is a cover up. And let's just realize that the president could be furious about that because he's just doing the best he can, in this role that he has, and it's not really fully suited for him. I just shifted it to, it's not fully suited for him.
Yeah, you did that much better than she did. I mean, I agree. It seemed to me like
Yeah.
the intervention comment was a little bit of a backhanded
It's a
insult.
label. It's a
Yeah,
label.
label.
Yeah.
But the I pray for the president was, I think, landed as more compassionate, like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, cause people to sort of pause and think, uh-oh.
Yeah. For the president. Yeah.
She's praying for the president. If we're at that point and all we can do is pray for things to
Yeah.
get better, how bad are we?
Yeah, that's right. That's a helpless. The empathy sentences is that she's feeling kind of helpless and hopeless about having a forward moving governmental sentence discussion with him on infrastructure, with him on anything that they're working on, and yeah, the Congress is passing things. uh the Senate will be blocking those things. um the They could say nothing is being done, but what they're doing is they're trying to do the people's work, which is considering the best options to deliver stuff, and not hunkering in on something that is not the best option or is not the best strategy to deal with the problem. If you want to deal with the problem, then you use the best strategy and you put the right amount of money on that strategy. um, and it's proportional. Okay, so you have an influx of people coming from countries from South and Central America because of the political unrest and because the economic collapse. That's problematic, and there's a humanitarian piece. It's not like Europe is going through their stuff because of the crisis that we created, we're a part of creating, in Syria, and how we're dealing with that situation. So, as well as other, Middle Eastern countries that are not stable because they don't have stable governments that are working together to come up with a solution for the people that they're supporting. and that's really problematic too. So
Bill, I'm realizing, sorry, I'm going to restate this.
yeah.
Bill, I'm realizing that after this whole situation that really kind of blew up with Pelosi saying the president was involved in a cover up, him having a knee jerk negative reaction to that escalated the conflict. Eventually, she gets to the point where she says she prays for the president. That offers a little empathy and starts to de escalate it. But the president didn't like where things are going. I'm sure with even what she said there about praying for him, I'm sure he didn't know how to deal with it. And then I'm realizing what happened next. The president tried to create more conflict by now authorizing the attorney general to declassify information and go after the people who started investigating him in the first place. This creates a whole lot more conflict where he's going to be in his happy place. And that's it. I'm realizing why he did that then, because he didn't know how to deal with the very notion that, Nancy Pelosi would say, I pray for the president, or, he needs an intervention. He's like, yeah, I'll show you an intervention. Here, take this sort of thing. So it really does show me that when you de-escalate, when you use empathy, he's completely off his game. He does not know how to deal with that. So how can people get to this place of de-escalation? I mean, empathy we've talked about, and I see that as a path, but help us understand how we can get, de-escalate. I'm sure it may have felt good in the moment for Nancy Pelosi to say the president's involved in a cover-up, but, is that really going to help the situation? Probably not.
Well, that's the best sentence she had. And that's the best sentence that he had. Neither of them are able to see each other's pain very well. And when you start seeing the other person's pain, it's a little, it allows you to slow up a little bit. So like, for example, if I were in the room, like I kind of like these kind of scenarios.
Oh, I'd love it if you were in the room. I think
if I'm in the room, 3 sentences, he would say yes to me 3 times. It might sound like this: Mr. President, you feel furious because you don't want to be seen as a person that does cover-ups. Is that right?
yes.
And Mr. President, you're feeling furious right now, and you really want this investigation to stop. Is that correct?
Yes.
You really want to contribute and move your agenda forward, and you'd really like people to work with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it's really hard to do these 2 things at the same time. So you'd really just like to walk out right now and not really do the infrastructure, and you'd really like to go out inside. You like to go on to do something different. Is that what you like to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm de-escalating him.
Right.
I'm de-escalating him. Now, it works in a room. I've been in many large size rooms. So if I walk into a room full of 250 screaming people at a city council meeting, somewhere between 17 and 23 minutes, I will have that room quiet. Quiet. Why is that? It's adopting a quality of listening that most people, as they're speaking, they're just saying the same sentence over and over again. And it's really hard to adopt this. And it's burned in the top of my head, by the way. It's a very simple sentence. Here it is. What's coming out of their mouth is words. But the subtext is, or the meaning underneath it is, please, comma, help me understand my pain. Exclamation point, close quote. That's what they're saying.
Wow.
Furious is a lot of pain. Irritated is pain. Exasperated, overwhelmed, those are all pain points. So if I'm adopting a quality, and in mediation, it's like I just try, like you see the stock what do you call it, the stock ticker tape or whatever the thing is that goes across with all the codes and everything like that. That's the same sentence. Just put it on their forehead. Please help me understand my pain. Please help me understand my pain. Please help me understand my pain. Same with your
Oh my
kids.
gosh,
Tell them,
Bill, the
please help me
motion,
understand.
the motion
Please,
you just are doing with
please
your,
help me
and
understand
I
my.
want to encourage our listeners to watch the video for this section right here, because the motion you're doing with your head about this message on their forehead, to me, was a metaphor for the red hat, make America great again. It
Right.
really was right on their
Right.
forehead. They're wearing that hat, and they must subconsciously be feeling the same
Please
thing.
help me understand my pain.
Wow.
Please. That's what a Make America Great Again is. Please help me understand my pain. And the pain is the America they grew up with is not the America that we live in now. That's the pain. There are three major elements that have changed. Three.
Okay.
Number one is the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. High school purity. You can come out and get a job. You know, you can get into, you can have your own house. You could take a vacation and it's not going to break your bank. You have downtime at the end of the day to connect with your kids. We don't have that now.
Right.
The 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 middle class dollar value has not went up. I watched it impact my dad in the 90s, where his dollars didn't get him there anymore. Where when he was younger, his dollars easily got him there to raise 8 kids on $25,000 a year.
Wow.
I mean, they were scrapping it. It wasn't easy. We didn't have a lot, but it was doable. It was doable with shelter. It was doable with food. It was even doable with private school. It was
Wow.
still doable for all the kids.
Wow.
A lot of sacrifice. That is not doable. So what does it mean when you know, you know, press down on the middle class? Like, well, you're getting people to experience pain because they've got to work a second job. They've got to get longer. The college is not available for their kid. The upper mobility is not accessible, as it was for me. I mean, it was accessible. I had a government loan that helped me through it. And yeah, it took me 20 years to pay it back at $30 a month, but I could do it. And it didn't kill me. And it didn't knock me out of a spending economy. It didn't stop my upper mobility. Just didn't. But these kids today, that has changed. So that's level pain number one. Pain number two has to do with the shifting of jobs and job values from jobs that you could get a pretty good wage from, to service industry jobs where those kind of jobs were a little bit more, entry level in the past. You could work at McDonald's and it was a good entry level job for 6 months or 3 months over the summer or whatever. And there was a manager and he trained you to do some stuff and you flipped burgers for a little while, but you weren't going to stay there because you were going to college or doing the next job. Now folks are squatting there, they're squatting at Starbucks. They're squatting at service level jobs. And it's not to say that I don't appreciate my, 20 to 35-year-old person working at Starbucks. But I'm not sure if that's the best way to spend our intellectual challenge to do that. You see what I mean? It's like
Well,
it's
I do. I think the service jobs have only increased more as the manufacturing jobs have gone overseas. That's
right.
big part of it.
That's right.
And there's this, there's education available for everybody as long as you can pay for it.
Right.
But then with that education, what kind of jobs are there for you to take when you get out? I mean, I do think that there's been a shift. The idea that you can do at least as good as your parents did and probably do better than, I don't think people on the whole believe that anymore, because I did think their experience, is evidence to the contrary.
Right. Yeah, that's the pain. The please help me understand my pain is the level of complexity has also increased. We, Tom, you and I was just at a Memorial Day party, and I was sitting around the table with 6 adults, and we were all talking about kids and stuff like that, and and I was talking to them a little bit about this podcast and stuff. I said, listen, and there was a lot of around this table, a lot of really middle class folks, working jobs in different industries and things like that. And I said, listen, I said to everybody, I go, listen, the truth is that all of us here at this table have more access to information at our fingertips than Ronald Reagan did. We have more information than the president did just whatever 30 something years ago, right? It's a little wacky, but we do. Now the problem now we have is, how do we process and sort that? Because we don't have a team of people to go through it and put the most important thing in front of us like he did. Here's the most important thing that he needed to look at. We don't have that. We don't have a team. We don't have vetters. We don't have people that have perspective about the information. There's nobody with a real plan that's doing it. We're just getting pounded from all directions. So make America great again means, please return me to the simplicity that I grew up with. Please return me to that, because it's too damn complex right now.
Isn't that a little bit like putting blinders on a horse so it doesn't really see what's all around them, though? Well,
yeah, I mean, it's not that they don't want to move forward, that people don't want to move forward and learn and grow, but it's just too much.
They want the simpler time. I get it.
That's right. There's a part that's going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's really great. Now, certain countries, if I just saw a big story about the 5G that China is developing and their advancements in technology.
Oh, 5G telecommunications. Yes.
Telecommunications,
yes.
Stuff like that. And literally we're way behind and they're way ahead. And so if we want to make America great again, it's different than making America number one again, which a lot of people do not want to believe that we're not number one in a lot of things.
Sure.
We are not. It's like, if we were really playing the game, the way that America needs to play the game is going like, who's doing things best? What's best practices? Yeah, both parties get together. We're doing that. How can we make it work? And how can we make it work the American way? And how can we add on to it and make it better than what they do? We could see their problems. We know the problems that they have. But how can we be number one? Because currently they're number one. How do we do that? Oh, well, how about in the school system, make it a 3-day school week? How about that? Certain countries are getting better test scores because they're doing that. Why are they doing that? A lot more free time, a lot more availability to people to discover their own passions and desires. Hey, let's not make America great again. Let's make America number one again. And here's the 3 categories we're going to take on. These are the ways that I'd like to make America great again. Not great again, but I want to make America number one again. Here's the things we'd like to be number one in. We're currently not number one in these things, but I really trust American ingenuity. Can you imagine if a Democratic character would take this one on? You see, it's different. I don't want to be great again. I can appreciate the simplicity of that. And it is great only if you're number one and not if you're number 47th.
Wow. Yeah, that would make certainly a heck of a lot of news. It would start getting a lot of people excited.
Traction. Yeah. Because it's the excitement of really setting. I mean, it's similar to the Kennedy speech of, we're going to go to the moon within the decade, not because it's hard.
Yeah.
We can do hard things. We're Americans. We can do hard things. We don't have to make America great again and just, go to, a barbecue at a football game. I love barbecues at football games, but I would like to do something hard before then.
Yeah.
So that I can really more agree, have some easy energy. And I want some stability along the way. I don't want to just gasp on my way into, and crawl into the weekend and being exhausted. So the big thing, Tom, is changing perspective on how we see the other.
Right.
The biggest thing is you've got to hold the point of view that the person, the person on the other side is doing the best they can. This is the best they have. This is the best that Trump has. This is the best that Pelosi has. This is the best Schumer has. This is the best they have. They don't know how to engage in the process of both standing firm and have compassion for somebody else losing it. When somebody else losing it and you just pointing out somebody losing it rather than compassionately turning it to something that's going to be productive, do that rather than, what you're getting stuck with. So that's a big part of it. And realize that it's like the many words that are spoken, the many actions that are taken. If you hold a mindset, and if any politician were to get a hold of this one, just hold the mindset that many times the person's expression is a tragic and sometimes a suicidal way for somebody trying to get their need met. So when a Fox's person is interviewing a person, it's a tragic, sometimes a suicidal way that they're approaching it. And most politicians don't know how to listen from that perspective. Is that person is going for a limited need or a very small truth perspective. They're not going for a large truth perspective. They're not dealing with the complexity of truth. They're dealing with a small sliver of the pie. That means, and they'll even cut videotape, which they just did for Pelosi, and they also did with Buttigieg. They cut a little slice of what the person said, edited together to wedge a truth perspective.
Well, yeah, that's true. We're learning more about this technology with AI now that can even take a still picture of a person who was not alive, at a time when there were moving pictures, right? Somebody that lived prior to video, and they can now create a complete video and have them appear to say whatever they want. So this is a very scary thing in terms of, truly fake news and
Yeah.
changing the narrative to that, trying to say somebody says something they didn't. Now that's going to be an even bigger issue, I think, going forward in terms of purchasing truth or trying to prevent it from being
Yeah.
hijacked. Right.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah, Samantha B did a really good piece on that recently, where she actually had the people responsible for that technology put somebody else's face over her face. I think it was Nicolas Cage's face over her face, now that
Oh,
I'm thinking
wow.
about it. And she was talking, and it looked like Nicolas Cage. It was coming out. It was like, that's weird, and I'm unsettled, and this is coming. This
Yeah.
is coming. So not only we need to, as Americans and as people of the world, realize that these messages can be crafted in a way that is not going to necessarily be in alignment with truth, but it's going to be a manufactured, slice of perspective instead.
Yeah. Given what we've been saying, Bill, won't the damage really have been done when something like that comes out? Because what we're saying is, if you're just going to argue facts against something like that, it's not going to be as effective.
No, you got to step into it a little bit more. Yeah, you can't use a fact there. You can't say, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. And all of a sudden, imprint, because that's not my version of truth. Now, notice I just reframed it in an empathy way. I said, I feel, I'm owning it, doubtful and skeptical. That is my truth or my expression. Let's take a further look at how that image made it onto media. Like with Pelosi and Buttigieg, the thing they needed to say next is something that really was more compassionate for the strategy that the person used, rather than a defense of the illusion that they promoted. It might have sounded like something like, really, I feel disheartened about the way that video of me was edited. This is Buttigieg. I feel disheartened. It really seems like that they're really trying to validate something that I didn't say. Yes, those are my words. Yes, it was edited from things I had said, but it was not in alignment with my beliefs or the meaning in context about what I was saying. Now, it took me a little longer. I did do it. That was a little bit more explanation than I would like. I would like it to be more pithier and a little bit more edgy, but in a way that really reclaims the truth back on my side, rather than letting the dangling image of the way they cut it together. I was literally shocked when I saw what they did to his footage. I went, yeah, that was the worst bit of propaganda I think I've ever seen on American TV. It was literally the worst propaganda that I'd seen. The way they cut it together about what he said.
Actually, Bill, I haven't seen that one. I saw the one with
Oh
Nancy
my.
Pelosi where they tried to make her sound like she's slurring her speech, when the point of adjusting hers was to make her seem old and incompetent or mentally deficient, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't see Buttigieg's.
Okay, so Buttigieg's was simple. He went on Fox News. He did a Fox News town hall.
Oh, I did see that, but I didn't see the doctored video. Yeah.
And when he got into, when the question was asked, what about Thomas monuments, taking the southern
the Confederate statues and things.
and the things that the founding fathers, said and did. It was, well, in light of what we know about their histories, it probably, some people would really think about, naming a street name after them today. He didn't say anything about removal. He said that people would think about it. They would think about it before they would say, oh, this is Thomas Jefferson Avenue right through a black community. That's the extreme, right?
Right.
It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, well, this is, really from what we know about. And what they did was cut it into, isn't it disgrace, he said, what he said about the founding fathers. He didn't say anything like that.
Wow.
It was pretty bad. It was really bad.
Well, if there's any candidate on the trail today that can handle something like that with compassion, it is him. I've been very impressed, and I found it very interesting because he's actually tracking at this time in the polls down pretty far. I mean, he's not even number 4 or 5, the last one I saw, and it's still very early. But when the news broke about Donald Trump siding with the North Korean leader about, disparaging comments said over Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg is one of the people that the news media asked about that and gave a quote, and he gave a very compassionate response to it and made him look like the most adult person in the room type of
That's
thing.
right. Yeah. He's very, very smart. He is really stands can shift into compassion and empathy for others very, very quickly. Has tremendous amount of courage, and knows that people are going to take a shot at him, and he's going like, I kind of been there and done that. I've got a couple extra chips I need to, have some toughness about, that, it's like, I got some different things about me that, a lot of people don't like. And, there's some different things about me, but I'm kind of a smart guy. He's a Rhodes Scholar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He's got a smart guy. It's like, I think I could do some compassionate empathy for where people are. I've got some tools, so that's one thing I really do appreciate about him too, is that he does do more empathy before problem solving. He does demonstrate compassion before he tries to slug it out with some mud. But he's also going like, well, I'm not gonna sit here and take it either. And and is that empathy is not a nice language. It's one of the most honest language. It's an honest language because you're talking about what's happening at the heart. You're not getting stuck in head talk. So it's not nice. It's the way to think about it is similar to, here's a good metaphor. A giraffe can kill a lion with one kick. A giraffe, one of the most gentle creatures on the planet, one of the ones with the most biggest heart, can kill a lion with one kick. They just line up, with the back, positioning the back of their body, and the lion charges, and he goes, boom, right with the left to the forehead. The lion goes down. The lion goes down and either gets stunned or gets killed. And the rest of the lion's going, holy shit, we may want to leave this creature alone, because did you see what happened with Joe the lion? He just got tagged. And empathy's like that. I mean, if somebody crosses me, I will bring a giraffe kick right to their forehead in a compassionate way. I will do it. You try to cross me.
So does that mean that empathy not only de-escalates the situation, but you can weaponize it?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a weaponized in a compassionate way, but it's in service. It's in service to the lion. in a kind of like, listen, I'm more dangerous than you think I am. It's in service to the lion, or the lion doesn't think that. It thinks like, and that's why the traction. I'll pray for you. We need to pray for the president.
Right.
We need to get an intervention to take place. Something that thinks now, and look where compassion has pushed him into the corner where he needed to get his staff to
Oh,
literally say the same thing,
do you remember that? Oh,
that it was really hard.
to say that he wasn't like having a temper tantrum in the room and storming out, that, oh, he was very calm. I mean, does this just seem like every movie you've ever seen about a dictator, who
Yeah.
needs everyone to love him? He can't, he needs to just hear all this reinforcement that he's the best, he's infallible, it's not him, it's everybody else. This was so sad in a way to me, to
Yeah.
see that display in that, what was it was in the Oval Office, wasn't it?
Yeah, or wherever it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was during a press conference or something. The difficulty is, and that's what empathy does, is it puts the person in a place. I've taught this to attorneys in the past, and I said, listen, you can get in there and try to prove fact to the judge or to the jury, but really, what's going to make a difference is have moments that land where they start getting compassion and empathy for your client. Now, it doesn't matter what side that it's on. If it's the person that's defense, or the person bringing the suit. It's compassion and empathy for what has happened to the person, or what the person's experiencing, really is the thing that makes the biggest difference. And that's where it forces the other side into a narrative of blaming the other person and calling the other person names. Now, Trump naturally goes to name calling because he doesn't have the skill of empathy or consideration. He has the value of loyalty, but loyalty at the cost of service to him. And in service to him is when he says something, he wants it done no matter what the cost is. So all of his enterprises have been really run that way. I don't care what the cost is. I want a porcelain, marble sink inside this plane. But Mr. Trump, that'll throw off the weight of the plane. Well, we need it to be luxury, so I want it in there. Okay. Now all of a sudden you got a plane that's too heavy or tilts when it takes off. He's not considering the full needs of it. Well, I want to have a steak company, and we have a really good contract with Brooks Brothers, and Brooks Brothers is known for its high-end gadgets, and let's do the steaks with them because I want to be involved with more high-end purchasers, and Trump Steaks belongs there. Well, Mr. Trump, I'm not sure if that's a really good fit. I'm not sure that people are going to buy steaks from a gadget store. But the contract that we got with them, very short term,
Yeah,
only
well,
certain needs.
guess what? In business, you absolutely can be a dictator to the extent that you can afford it, financially. And it's entirely different from running a government. And it just is, the government structure is not in alignment with his leadership style.
No, it is not. It is not in alignment with his leadership style. And there's many, many business leaders that have bad days. That, the former owner of Uber,
Yes.
They have bad days, and those days get amplified. And when they do, the stock price falls, and the stockholders go, "Can you recover?" The answer was no. They couldn't recover and deal with that guy's shenanigans. Because if it was a one-time thing, he would have recovered.
Right.
But clearly, there had been a history of that kind of noise. It's like, please, just take your money and go, please.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and isn't it interesting? We've talked about it, I think, at least once briefly before, but you look at everybody who has ever told the president no or not told him exactly what he wanted to hear in his cabinet is gone. And those people that lined up last week, when Trump said, "Oh, how
Yeah,
was
none of them
I
would be
in
gone if
that
they.
meeting?"
Yeah.
I mean, they
Still
knew
there.
they were learned from their
They knew.
predecessors, right? They learned from their predecessors. Whoa, we can't say what we really feel or we're gone. So we're going to say what the president wants to hear.
Right. Right. And now here's a trick. Here's something interesting, Tom. All those people didn't have to go. If they would have used anywhere between 1 to 3 lines of empathy first before they told him no, all of them would still be on board.
Oh, I'd love this. Let's hear that. So if you're Rex Tillerson and you, of course, maybe he sabotaged himself by calling the president a moron and that came out, but
Yeah.
what would they say?
Well, for him, it might have sounded something like, Mr. President, I kind of see the value in which you're going for, and you'd really like me to hear the way to deal with the Russians is this way. Part of me feels a little doubtful and skeptical that we're going to get him to go along with it. I think that we have 3 other options. Which one of these options you might like the best?
So you
And
turn it around and
meanwhile,
make it his idea to choose an alternative.
that's right, same as a 12-year-old.
Wow.
You got to, with kids and adults, even spouses, you got to still be in the game, even though that you got to get them in the game, even though you might have the best answer. It's not the smartest person in the room. It's not the, what did he call himself, stable genius.
Oh yeah,
It's not,
stable
it's not,
genius.
it's not the stable genius that is there. Boy, you've got to get the collaboration and cooperation of others. And then that style of leadership is really the one that makes really profitable companies, which we're finding out how much unprofitable his companies were, and how he kind of just spent and throw money at stuff. I don't care, let's just do it this way. He, like a gambler, he would just make money and get some money back, stuff. So really, really tough,
Well,
so.
now let's do one more of these because I think it really helps helps me understand, and hopefully the other listeners too, how to de-escalate conflict, but turn it around to something productive. Let's take the Health and Human Services Secretary. It was, and not health. Which one was that? No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. Let's take the Homeland Security Secretary, who, of course, is in charge of the flow of people coming across the border, the national emergency the president declared, and she got forced out. Clearly because she was understanding what needed to be done, what could be done versus what the president wanted to do. Would you have a suggestion for what she could have said to him?
Boy, there are so many opportunities of things that you could have said and done, to be able to get him to make it to be a win. He could have got a lot of wins down there, but the problem with this narrow-minded thinking is that I want it done this my way. I'm going to fail, then I'm going to try a new way because I'm listening to somebody else, and that's a person that likes me now, and I'll take that new way. And so he just takes the person that has the new way of doing things, like stuff, and then also people that are the ones that are left are very either myopic or submissive. I never thought I was going to use or hear the word sycophant or whatever it's called, the enabler, that those words were going to be used over and over and over again, and the problem is that most people don't know what they really mean, or that there's a definition. It's like, oh, they're calling us a name again, instead of
Right.
like, I don't know if you really took the time to learn that definition, you might as well kind of, use that pesky Google thing that we have now, instead of a dictionary. So anyway, so with her, the main thing is that we've got to balance, Mr. President. You may want to message this so that we can balance how we care for the people that are there as well as protect the border. Please mix the care narrative in with protection of the border, and I think you can still get the recognition and acknowledgement you'd like, and get a greater win out of this for yourself. And that is
Wow, that bait that she could have put out there for him of get a bigger win, you'd think he would have latched onto that.
The bigger win, instead of legally we can't do that, Mr. President, because the courts have defied this. What do you mean? I know those courts. The other thing that he's not really aware of is that courts, when they want to, they can move fast. He's been able to stall judges and courts. His attorneys have been able to stall things in the past. He doesn't realize that judges can make things go quicker. And in government, we most certainly can make things go quicker, especially when the rule of law is settled and there's some integrity and some protection and some respect and some foundational things. They'll make it go quick. Him and his attorneys have been stunned over this last week, going like, the judge just said no. The judge just ordered it and gave me no recourse. All of the attorneys he used to be able to bring on board could stall everybody else and drag it out. And usually the other person he was against ran out of money.
Yeah, he'd run the clock out on him.
Run the clock out of him. But in this case, the federal judges are going like, no, that's not precedent. No, you guys are out. And the people are going like, the attorneys they've got to be, if they're in a Trump attorney, they got to be surprised because they're unaware about judges moving things faster. Because they've been able to stall it. It's like a class action suit. You can stall something like that for 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 years.
Right.
And before you settle it. And then it's pennies of the dollars and half the people are dead. So they don't have to pay it. So they just run the clock out on the poor people. So, regrettably, we're in a bit of a mess. Where the tools are available for people to use, yet regrettably, Tom, you and I are in the 10% of people that know this stuff.
I think that's very charitable, Bill. You think 10% of people really know this stuff? I don't know.
Maybe 5.
But what I think is the message that I hope people hear, I'm not sure how you feel about it, Bill, but what I hope people hear is there is a path. There is a path to battle this, quagmire that we're in. That's maybe not the right word, but the situation that we're in where truth is under attack every day.
All the leading candidates need to add this narrative to what they're doing right now, whether it's Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, all of those, kind of like current front runners. They need to add a narrative of strength with compassion, not nicey, your poor heart stuff, or I'll pray for you, is not as strong as a strong, compassionate narrative. And when they do, and added with the narrative that they're using, they'll get there. Their points will move up. They'll start to gain their points. That's the thing, is that once you're there in that space and using a narrative, and you're able to flip some of these very, very solid things. It's not make America great again. It's please help me understand my pain. Help me understand my pain. They don't even understand how their pain is coming from those three areas that I described. They don't understand it. They just know they're in pain. The politicians are great at explaining it. They've been left behind. Their jobs have been outsourced. That's not understanding a person's pain. That's explaining the solution or the problem, and you have the answer about why they're in pain. That's not understanding their pain.
Explaining it isn't going to get them where they need to go.
It doesn't get there. Anyways.
Wow. Wonderful.
Hey, we did something.
Fantastic. Yeah, I feel like that was great. I really enjoyed that. Well, and I hope that our audience did too. It was quite illuminating.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. This has been great. It's a really good discussion. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks. I'm excited for the next one. We'll look forward to that.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.